and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And Sean Chapman.
As always, we are here to talk about stuff. As always, we are here to talk about Doctor Who.
Yes.
And as always, we open the show with Persona music, because why not?
Yeah, because when we don't have any really specific topic, fucking Persona music.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and since there's no, soundtrack for the season of Doctor Who yet, obviously, we can't be using that. So
yeah.
That'd just be weird.
Exactly.
But yes. Alright, so, Sean, what's on deck for today?
I believe that an episode of Doctor Who came out.
Yes.
So I think we should probably talk about that.
We're going to talk about that. So, Doctor Who Episode 3, Robot of Sherwood.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that. Probably just muse on some other things. Really nothing big happened this week, at least in the stuff we cover, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Destiny is right around the corner.
Destiny's right around the corner, so we're about to get busy. But
yeah.
It's interesting. So, let's see. I wanted to talk about a game, though, that I played.
Yes.
Which I think I might call, and I know this is going to change in literally 3 days because there's a new game coming out that is going to be better. But what I think is my game of the year so far for this week until Destiny comes out. Because I can't count the Destiny Alpha or Beta because they're not full games yet. So, but yes, on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita this week, a new exclusive came out called Velocity 2X. If you're a PlayStation Plus owner, you got this game for free, which I think is pretty fucking crazy considering the content of this game and the quality of this game. It's definitely one of the better and more roundly acclaimed games I've seen come out new on PS Plus ever, which is one of the nice things now with PS4. They're kind of forced to just give you a new game every month that you really have very little chance of having bought before. Yeah. Which is a nice way to experience some of the smaller games or indie games coming out on PS4 right now. This is not an indie game, but yeah, so Velocity 2X, as I understand it, this is a sequel to a game called Velocity.
Yes, it definitely is, because all the reviews I looked at all addressed it as this is a really great sequel. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'll take your word for it, because I did not play Velocity. Yeah,
I had no idea. I think it's a game that's on everything.
Yeah.
So if you want to go play Velocity 1, you can. You don't need to. There's no plot carryover. It's completely, I would have never even guessed this was a sequel. Mm-hmm. Because it's, Velocity 2X. I guess there's a 2 in there, but that could refer to a lot of things. I don't know. It could just be
it just sounds like it's the beginning to some weird physics problem, Velocity 2X.
Right. But no, it's hard to describe even what Velocity 2X is. I was telling my brother about it the other day, and he said, well, what kind of game is it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It actually does a lot of things really well. It's kind of an arcadey kind of game, where the story is minimal, although I like the story, and I like the characters, and it's fun in this kind of comic booky sort of sci-fi serial sort of way. I say comic booky because that's kind of how they present it, is almost like in panels and pieces of art and still art and things. But yeah, so it's very arcadey in that it's really level based, score based, that kind of thing. And it starts out, you've got a ship and you're moving, you're viewing down on the ship. Yeah. And you're going up on screen and firing. So you think it's kind of it's like asteroids or something like that. And that's how it starts. But then you get to level 3 or 4, and now you're doing side-scrolling missions where you're running around as the pilot, as the person. Mm-hmm. And then you're kind of mixing those two together, and then it also introduces puzzle elements. And then the shooting elements become a lot deeper than something like asteroids, because you also have bombs and other kinds of ways to shoot sort of around instead of just up.
I mean, to be fair, Asteroids is a game that came out in the 70s.
Right.
So
yeah.
I would like more, say, Galaga or something like
that.
That's along the vein, Asteroids is a weird comparison point for what is one of the most storied genres in all of video games.
It is.
Which is you are a fucking spaceship and you are flying towards the top of the screen. There's shit coming down from the bottom of the screen.
But is Asteroids not one of the most basic versions of that
Asteroids isn't even like that. Asteroids is like a fucking free roaming game, man. Asteroids is you can go fucking anywhere. You just fly around and shoot asteroids, man.
Okay.
You're not just going up, you're going left, right, down.
Really? Okay.
All over the place.
I've never played Asteroids.
That's pretty obvious from where I'm sitting, Jonathan.
It's a pretty old game. I'm probably thinking Galaga more.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Something
like that.
Galaga was the game that keeps, when I'm trying to describe this game to people, it's on the tip of my tongue every time, and I'm forgetting Galaga. So there it is, Galaga. But anyway, so you're mixing all those kinds of things. There's these puzzle elements that go between the space shooting and the side-scrolling parts, and then it gets into all these time progression things, and it's a very complex, layered game, and one of the things it does well is it just does a phenomenal job introducing its systems to you, so you never feel overwhelmed. They all kind of layer on top of each other, and then once you're, everything's there and the levels start getting harder, you feel like you have what you need to succeed, but it also lets you kind of experiment when you need to. At a certain point, it stops giving you tips that it might have been giving you earlier, So you're really, there's things that might not be instinctual. They're built into the systems, but you maybe didn't know you could do it or something. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to get through the puzzles and kind of have to use your wits and kind of just play with the different systems. But it is such a phenomenal game. I mean, on a technical level, it is a gorgeous game. I don't think the graphics are like pushing the PS4, but they look great. They're so colorful, high frame rate, everything looks so good. It's got a phenomenal video game soundtrack. I mean, one of my absolute favorite video game soundtracks of all time. It sounds like something like you would get in the 90s or something, and you would go buy the physical CD soundtrack, and you would you'd listen to it more than you'd play the game or something. Yeah. It's so good. But the game itself is just, I say it's probably my game of the year so far, because just I think on a purely, what are the actual gameplay systems in the game, on that level, it's just unparalleled to me in stuff I've played this year, where everything is just so fine-tuned and works so well, and there's such a sense of discovery constantly, and, it's just so addictive, and the upper levels are so challenging, but in a great way, where you never feel frustrated. You just want to keep playing and figure it out. You don't ever feel like you're being, things are being withheld from you. It's just, you're really working with the game. It's just so very good. I think when we did our, mid-year check-in, my 3 games I recommended were, Bravely Default, Infamous, and Titanfall. Yeah. So this would have to be Bravely Default for me. And the great thing about Velocity 2X, unless, the last 2 levels, which are the only ones I haven't played yet, do something really weird, I think it's probably a better all-around game than Bravely Default for me, because this does not repeat itself.
Yeah, it's like the second to the last level just asks you to replay all those other levels again in a row.
Yeah. Well, and I should say, you do have to do some level replaying, I think, to get through, but it's in a different way. It's that there's this progression system where to get to a new level, you have to have a certain amount of XP, and you get XP by achieving different score and item things within the levels. And really, you don't need to worry about that at all until you get to the last 10, and then you need fairly high XP. So I've gone back and replayed some levels, but it's totally different than Bravely Default.
Yeah, it's more like you're replaying it to get a better score. Yeah. There are a lot of games that have that basic mechanic.
Right, and and that's totally fine, and it's fun, and it's kind of just nice, because I'm like, okay, well, this is like a nice break between levels. I go play an easier one and try to perfect that, and those levels seem completely different when you go back to them, because now you have all your stuff, but you also have all the knowledge that you've accrued over the course of the game. So this is just a terrific, terrific game. If you have a Vita or a PS4, get it, especially if you have PS Plus. Absolutely no reason not to download it and play it. It works great across the Vita and the PS4, really nice, easy cross-save system. So I've been enjoying that. Plays equally well on both, really. I think there are some things that are a little easier to do on the PS4 when you have a full controller, just because... when you need precision, the Vita controls are phenomenal for a portable console, but they can't beat an actual full joystick or something. So that's the only difference I've noted. But really fun, great looking game, great sounding game. Absolutely love it. I've had so much fun with it, and it's been a great thing to get me through the last week before Destiny.
Yeah. But so if you've been enjoying Velocity 2X so much, do you think you should try your hand at, calculating velocity like a physics problem? Do you think it's a good introduction in that way?
Absolutely.
To open you up to this whole new world of possibilities. If you love velocity so much, Jonathan, it doesn't need to stop there.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go take a physics class or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect you to want to enrich yourself, Jonathan.
Well, thank you. That's one of the meaner things you've said on this podcast in kind of a quiet, understated way.
Well, it's true. Anyways.
Wow. Jesus.
So what else have you been up to, Jonathan?
I also got Minecraft on PS4. I thought I mentioned that briefly.
Sure, then what else did you do, Jonathan?
Okay, you don't care. Yeah, it's
Minecraft. It's a fucking 8-year-old game at this point.
All I was going to say is that, it's been around forever. I haven't played it for a while, probably since Christmas of last year or something.
Did you ever truly play Minecraft, Jonathan, or did Minecraft play you?
I think Minecraft plays you. Minecraft is a game that gets its hooks in, and it's I definitely have better things to do with my time than shop down wood for hours.
Yeah, anything is better. It would be better for you to just sit alone on the couch with the lights off. You'd learn more about life and yourself by doing that than by playing Minecraft.
No, you all know I love Minecraft. I think it's a really fun game. It's something I kind of play in chunks, in stretches, and I just get into it for phases, and then I get out of it. But like I said, last time I played it was on the 360, And maybe some of the improvements I'm seeing to it on the PS4 version were added sometime in the 360's lifespan over the last
there's been
year.
a bunch of patches and stuff.
Yeah. Like, the biggest thing the big thing on PS4 and Xbox One is that they are much bigger world sizes, and that's very nice. More room to breathe, more time to just explore and stuff, and I like that. But the biggest improvement is that they've added a ton of new music. And again, maybe this came in a 360 patch at some point. But, if you've played Minecraft for any amount of time, you know the, 5 tracks that are in the game.
I've only played a tiny amount of Minecraft, and I know, all the music of Minecraft to heart.
And at least the stuff I'm hearing on PS4 I have never heard before. It's really good. I've never, ever felt compelled to play Minecraft with the sound on. I usually put on a podcast or something. And I still do that a lot with the PS4 version. But there were times where I just played for an hour just listening to the music, because it's atmospheric and kind of evocative and interesting, and it's really nice. So that's fine. That's really all I have to say about the Minecraft PS4 version.
The PC
it is Minecraft.
version is probably still the best version.
Probably still the best version, but I like just having it on console. I think like you talked about last week with Diablo, and just liking just being able to do it with a controller and not having to worry about all the clicking and things like that.
But I mean, you could play Minecraft on PC with a controller.
Yeah, you probably could. Although there are still more complex things, like they don't like the menus.
Sure. Oh yeah, like they do.
Yeah.
It's not a game for babies like it is on the consoles.
All right. For some reason, Sean really dislikes Minecraft.
No, Minecraft is fine.
Okay, just not for you.
Yeah, I think if I was in a different situation, I would like Minecraft a lot, but I'm not in that
different situation. Like
if I was a lot younger and there was I knew a lot of other people my age playing Minecraft. You're the only person I know my age that plays Minecraft.
Okay. My brother and I play it, so we're excited for Thanksgiving when we're both at home again, playing the PS4 version a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think my brother would be so into Minecraft. That would be weird. That would be a very awkward family moment.
Your brother's an engineer or something, right? He should love Minecraft.
Yeah, but he actually knows how to and he's a chemical engineer, so he knows to make actual shit with chemicals. I don't think you'd want to sit there and be like, oh hey, I got 2 mushrooms and a bottle of water so we can make a potion of bullshit, because making anything in Minecraft is useless because there's no point. It's all just meaningless. It's just meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, but Minecraft has this effect where I started playing it and my goal was just to build a house for the night, and that became probably in aggregate a 6-hour project over 2 days, because I built a really elaborate house. And
when I played Minecraft, which is basically I've just played the free trial on 360.
Yeah.
I remember basically what I did was I was I'm going to make a house, and so then I got some wood and made a small little log cabin. And then I made I tried to make a double door thing in the front, but the way that worked was just it was really shitty and inefficient. So I was this is a shitty way to make doors. It just does not work the way you'd want it to. And I was oh, there's some zombies outside. I have a wooden sword, and I killed them. And I was this is there's nothing else to do. There's nothing.
You could go mine. There's crap.
It's just an empty. I'm just sitting here. This sad block man alone in a sad block world with nothing to do because there's no one else. You're just alone. It's just you and trees and monsters.
There are villagers now.
But they're not people. They're weird Squidward fuckers that just walk around and make weird Squidward noises, and they have no mind. They have no emotion. You can't talk to the villagers. You just... This is why I don't like Minecraft. It is a depressingly realistic simulation of actual life, and that it's there are villagers and there are people that exist in that world, but you can't interact with them in any meaningful way. You look at them, it's just these blank textured eyes staring back at you, and you don't know what they're thinking because they're not thinking anything, as far as you know. It's just you're the only person there that's actually sentient. And that's what real life is like. It's I don't know. You could just be a computer program, Jonathan. You might just be the villagers. I might just be alone in this fucking chaos. And there's no meaning. There's nothing. I work and there's no true reward because there is no boss to beat at the end, Jonathan. There's no end game. You just die and that's it. And if you're lucky, reincarnation is a thing and you respawn, but that's probably not even true. That's the one lie that Minecraft tells you. This is what you spend your time playing, Jonathan.
Sean, you sound like you're about to go write The Matrix.
I've got something to tell you, Jonathan.
What?
I wrote The Matrix.
Okay. Wow, that's the most deeply philosophical our podcast has ever gotten.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to talk about Doctor Who and Robin Hood. We're going to go on a really different tangent. Yeah. Okay, well anyway, what else have you played any games other than Diablo, more Diablo?
No, I've been playing a lot of Diablo.
Oh, Diablo,
yeah.
Alright.
So much Diablo. Yeah, I really want to play Velocity 2X. I'll probably end up, unfortunately, I'll probably end up playing it like winter break because like you have all this like fucking Destiny and everything coming out right now. That game seems like that would be a nice just like when everything settles down. Just go back to that.
And I think you can play it between other stuff because it's not a small game in content. There's 50 levels and you can replay them and everything. If you paid full price for it, which is $20, that would be completely fair. But yeah, you could anyway. It'll be fine to play whenever you get to it.
Yeah.
So yes. All right.
A lot better than fucking Minecraft.
Okay. Let's see. I saw Ghostbusters today. I wanted to mention that really briefly.
This is a good fucking movie.
Really good fucking movie. They re-released it into theaters for the 30th anniversary. It was going to be a 1-week engagement. I guess they've extended it to 2 because I saw it today. And I was down in Golden, my hometown, just getting some stuff from home. And I wound up being near the Draft House, which is my favorite theater in Colorado, and they were showing Ghostbusters. And I'm like, I could use some time at the Draft House watching Ghostbusters. That sounds like a good use of my Saturday. Yeah. And it was. And all I really mention this for is because, A, Ghostbusters is a fantastic movie.
Yes, it is.
And I feel like whenever you go back to it, I just appreciate the ways in which it's good more and more.
Yeah.
Like, that is a script that should be taught in screenwriting classes.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It is direct. It is to the point. It is astoundingly simple when you actually look at it. Like, it is 3 acts by the book where the Ghostbusters are introduced. They have, like, one mission with the Slimer. And then it's on to the Dana Barrett stuff, you know, and all of that. And it's just so well paced and everything. Bill Murray is he's like a dog who was just let off the leash in that movie. He's just doing whatever the fuck he wants. I'm not even sure he knows he's on camera all the time. But he's that kind of good. But everyone is good in it. But really what was interesting about this is that it's gotten a new, like, 4K restoration.
Oh, cool.
And it looked fantastic. Like, Ghostbusters is a movie made not just in the 80s, but, like, in the 80th period of the 80s.
Yeah.
Where film, I don't know what they did to film stock at the time, but they just, like, rubbed a steel brush over it before they shot on it. So films from that era just look kind of like garbage. And Ghostbusters has always been, like, way overly grainy and kind of beat up and in all these different ways. And
like movies from that period look like they are a lot older than they actually are.
Yes. Yeah, like restoring a movie from that time for some reason is kind of a big task. They haven't held up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they held up to start with. But yeah, this looked fantastic. Like it still looks completely like a movie made on film, made in that era, but it's good. You can see details, there's warmth to the colors, there's facial texture, all these things that you just really wouldn't have seen in there before. And it's a testament also to those kind of effects from the time. The effects hold up 100% under that kind of scrutiny. They look great. In a theater, they still are just so fun. You know, especially all the stuff at the end. Like, one of my favorite movie sets ever is the set where they confront Gozer at the end.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah, and it was fun to see that in a theater. I know I've seen Ghostbusters in a theater before once, but it was a while ago, and it was on a really beat-up film print. So, this was better. Definitely. But yeah, so, 30th anniversary, Ghostbusters. Good excuse to go see the movie.
Yeah.
As if you need an excuse to watch Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
Yes. So anyway, anything else to talk about before we move on, Sean?
I don't think so.
All right.
I think we should talk about the important shit.
Doctor Who?
Exactly. The most important shit.
Okay. So we've got Doctor Who, Season 8, Series 8, Season 34.
Yeah.
Episode 3. Robot of Sherwood by Mark Gatiss.
Yes.
All right. I want to say.
Yeah. Here, let me start. Because I just want to invite listeners to go back to our last podcast and listen to the very end when Jonathan espoused his beliefs on Mark Gatiss' ability as a writer and how he thought that this episode was just going to be terrible and he would hate it. And yeah, just go listen to that right now and then come back. I'll give you a little bit of time. Okay, Jonathan.
All right. I need to keep a more open mind about these things, clearly, because I didn't think this was just... this is inarguably the best episode Mark Gatiss has ever written.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that.
It has a confidence of tone and a sense of fun and a sense of character that I don't think any of his writing has had on Doctor Who before. It's an episode that has big ideas and actually, in a lot of ways, follows through on them. To degrees that I think we disagree on, but it does do that.
Yeah.
But for me, this was not just a surprisingly good Mark Gatiss episode. This is easily my favorite Doctor Who of the season so far. I thought it was a really good episode, and honestly... I probably have to go back to Nightmare in Silver from last season to find an episode of Doctor Who. And granted, that's a long period of time, but it's not that many episodes, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just weird, Doctor Who now.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably where I'd have to go back to find an episode I probably liked without reservation this much, because even something like The Day of the Doctor, which I really loved, I still can very clearly see and agree on some levels with your criticisms of, the War Doctor would have been more powerful had been the 8th Doctor or something like that. All those things. So I really liked this. I just thought it was so fun. I thought it used Robin Hood and kind of those mythos in as interesting a way as you can do in 45 minutes where you're servicing other characters too. I thought it used all the characters well. I thought it was very, very fun. I thought the story didn't get in the way of the fun and in fact was fairly clever in its own ways. And more than anything else, the two biggest things I would praise in this episode is I thought the Doctor himself was fantastically written. This was the first episode of Peter Capaldi's run so far, of these 3, where I felt it was tailored to what he brings to the Doctor really well, but also felt very universal in a way where I kind of felt him as the Doctor more than before. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because this is, the third, obviously every week we're going to feel that more, but I also just thought it did that well on the writing, but also because I thought I could look at pretty much any line he had here and imagine any Doctor saying it. I just thought it felt like a very universally written Doctor voice in this one, and I kind of had fun thinking of that. And sometimes there were even some parts early in the episode where I could imagine William Hartnell being just kind of uppity about everything.
It is very Hartnell-y, like a lot of the episode is.
Yeah, so it felt really kind of fundamentally Doctor-esque in all of those different ways, and I liked that. But the most important thing is I thought thematically, I really liked how this episode blended in with all the fun and excitement. This story just kind of this very simple, but I think in my mind, kind of interesting and powerful just story about heroism and the nature of heroism and the Doctor's own struggles with what heroism means. And I think that works in both kind of the larger-than-life fairy tale sense we're getting from this episode. Or not fairy tale, but like legend sense. Mm-hmm. But also I think in the Doctor's arc over the course of this season, where we have Deep Breath into the Dalek being all about this Doctor wondering who he is, reevaluating his life, and wondering if he is the good man he kind of previously thought he was. Mm-hmm. And I thought this episode really did a nice, understated job with that. I kind of think the same way you kind of thought about Into the Dalek last week, where the themes kind of resonated for you in interesting ways. It did in this one, too. And I liked how they brought Clara into it, too, where, and I think consistently, as we've said last week, they're starting to use Clara very well in this. Yeah. And I think in this one, for me, it was like the idea of the Doctor being so against the idea of Robin Hood being able to exist, and what kind of his turning point in the episode where he starts to change his way of thinking is him asking Clara, when did you start believing in impossible heroes? And she says, how do you not know that?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice moment, and it's indicative to me of a lot of what the episode does well. So that's my basic 2 cents on Robot of Sherwood.
Yeah, for me, I agree with a lot of what you like about it, and I think it's a very good episode. That there's a couple of stuff about it that I don't like so much. I think, and it's more like they're too, it's mostly a very solid episode that sometimes I think it maybe goes a little too silly for my taste. Especially this is the stuff with the Doctor fighting with a spoon. I thought was kind of dumb, and especially because it's man, the Doctor doesn't need no fucking spoon. He's got a sword. He's fucking sword fought several times before. I mostly just wanted to see Peter Capaldi fight with a sword, and the spoon's kind of lame.
I just, he'd have to run back into the TARDIS to get the sword. He had the spoon on him right then.
I mean, you could have written a scenario very easily that just procured him a sword. That would have been a lot cooler of a scene than the spoon. But yeah, and then there's a couple of lines that fall a little flat, but I think mainly there's one big sort of dumb thing. The climax of the episode is predicated on something that is so colossally stupid and makes absolutely no sense that it really drags the episode down in a way that I was really sort of disappointed when I got there, because I was really enjoying the episode, and then it pulls this, just ridiculous, stupid fucking thing.
Well, tell us about it.
Yeah. So all spoilers. It's robots, and they need gold for their ship. Whatever, fine. It's kind of weird premise, but sure.
Well, it works in with the Robin Hood, mythos of their taking stuff. Yeah.
But so they have the solid gold arrow from the archery contest or whatever, and then they shoot it at the ship because the ship doesn't have enough gold to take off. But they're still trying to take off, even though the ship does not have enough gold to take off. Even though it should have enough gold to take off, because they had so much gold that they just kind of didn't use. They had all these fucking gold plates lying around for the peasants to use to defeat them with. But whatever. Enough gold there that the Doctor could have just left that all alone, obviously, and if all that stuff had been processed, they would have had enough gold to just fucking leave and not destroy all of England. But anyways, so they have the solid gold arrow, and so they shoot the solid gold arrow into the side of the ship, and that somehow gives the ship enough power magically to just take off just enough for it to then explode in the atmosphere and not kill everything, even though, like, that makes no fucking sense. And, like, how would that arrow, like, pierce the hull of that fucking space? It's a spaceship. And then, like, how the fuck does just shooting a solid... It would be like throwing a can of gasoline at a car and expecting it to fuel the fucking car. It makes no fucking sense. It's like this giant lapse in logic. As soon as it happened, I was like, this... It felt like such a lazy writing that the rest of the episode was so much better. That was so disappointing. It's like, you didn't need to rely on this really lazy climax. You could have come up with something better than that.
I will say, I think that sequence would have been fine for me if they had done it at least like the Death Star, where there's a hole they have to get the arrow into.
Yeah, like if you had set it up, like I kind of like the idea.
I love the idea. I agree the execution is flawed because I just don't like the visual of it just sticking in the ship and then it works. I wish it had, like, again, Death Star, there's a hole, you get it in there, you're good.
And even then, like, just the whole premise of this is like, it's this ship magic, because you see them making circuits out of gold. That makes sense. Like, sure, okay, you're using gold for the circuitry. Like, that's something we do in real fucking life. But you don't just jam gold into an engine. Like, that's not how that works. Again, it's like throwing a can of gasoline at a fucking car. Like, you're missing the whole point. You have to fucking pour the gasoline into the engine. You can't just fucking chuck a container of gasoline.
Now I'm just imagining a Doctor Who episode that actually climaxes in this way.
I mean, actually, back up. It's not even like that. It's more like there's a car that's trying to drive that doesn't have a full engine, like a complete engine, and so it's like taking part of an engine and throwing it at the car, expecting it to, like, fall into the hood and, like, slot into place and magically align perfectly so the engine is fixed, and then the car can drive while it's driving. It's just fucking nonsense.
For me, on the spectrum of Doctor Who narrative stupidity, this is pretty low.
I don't know. Like, it's a pretty extreme lapse in logic. Like, it's and no part of it makes any sense. Like, they don't set it up in a way that I can just suspend my disbelief and be fine with it.
And I guess why I can overlook it a little more is because this is an episode of Doctor Who that was refreshing for me, and they developed everything else so well, and I feel like we've had a lot of Doctor Who episodes going back to, like, the start of maybe Series 7, where a lot of it felt underdeveloped for me, just consistently through good episodes and bad, and this is one that felt, in most areas, very developed. And
I feel like, but I would say my argument to that is that the character stuff and some of the theme stuff was very well developed, but the plot wasn't, and that's where the golden arrow comes in, is that the plot sort of just feels like it's there. And it makes me kind of disappointed that I wish... It made me thinking about it because so much of the episode is very William Hartnell-y in so many ways that it makes me wish that they could just have an episode set in historical times and not have to do sci-fi on it like they used to, because I think that would have... I think sometimes that's what makes these historical episodes feel very weird to me, is that they feel like they have to jam-pack sci-fi elements into it, where, like, the robot stuff just kind of felt out of place. Like, I feel if you cut all that stuff out and wrote around it, in a lot of ways you could make a better episode.
Okay, well, I disagree, but I agree with your basic premise here. I agree. My number one problem with most modern historical episodes of Doctor Who is exactly what you're describing, where we have to have this sci-fi element baked in. And I just thought this felt, because it's a little more underplayed, the episode doesn't become 100% about that the moment it's introduced. Yeah. It doesn't, like, here's the thing. I feel like a worse, and an episode I could see Modern Who doing, and I think it's done in the past, would be, you get 15 minutes in and Robin Hood is a robot, and he is bad. That has happened, and that's what I was afraid this episode was going to do, and I like that it sidestepped that, and I think the plot is pretty sparse, but I think it doesn't get in the way of what the episode does well. So, for instance, we have the robots and everything, and it builds to the Doctor having that big speech about, and I like this as a plot thing, that they came to Earth and they have all these records of historical heroes, and his theory that they built Robin Hood for that.
Like, was that ship supposed to be a time-traveling ship?
It's from the 29th century, he says that.
I thought that line was where it's more 29th century than it is 12th century, which doesn't necessarily mean it's literally from the future. Like, I was a little bit confused about where that ship is from. Because it's like, I didn't necessarily get the sense that it was actually a time-traveling ship. but it definitely had, because 29th century is nowhere near, like, the 52nd century, that's when you're talking about, like, humans and that kind of shit, time traveling, like, in Deep Breath. So that, like, the time scale feels weird for that, and they have, like, all these records of, like, modern day Robin Hood.
Either way, I think what was interesting to me about the plot here is that it kind of almost played off the conventions of modern Who historical sci-fi episodes to me, where the Doctor kept wanting to use the sci-fi as an out for him to think what he thinks about Robin Hood and these ideas of heroism he's established or is musing on, and it never provides him that. It provides something different, but it provides him this moment to actually get more, get to know this Robin Hood, get to have an actual revelation about himself rather than it just being the way it always usually would play out in these scenarios. So, and I mean, that's the thing, is Mark Gatiss has written this kind of episode that we're complaining about before. The Crimson Horror is 100% that kind of episode to me. Where it starts, it gets completely consumed by a stupid plot until you've got alien babies suckling on Dame Diana Rigg's teat. Yeah. I always have to say that sentence. Yeah. And you could say that about, I think, like the Charles Dickens episode. Probably gets a little consumed by the ghost stuff and whatnot.
And I guess, like, my problem is that it then, like, the fact that the robot stuff is so sparse is that it then feels incredibly out of place to me. And that part of that is just, like, the robot design, I think, is really lame and sort of unconvincing. And just, like, also part of the climax is just feels very strange, is the whole sequence where all the peasant people get their golden fucking plates that they all have, and all the robots just shoot at the plates instead of shooting at their primarily exposed bodies.
These are very dumb robots. No doubt about it.
But it's just like, it just feels like that part of the climax just felt like really lazy writing to me. Of just, they did not develop that sci-fi aspect of it enough, so it was just kind of like hand waved away in really lazy ways. Just, the robots are just going to shoot the fucking mirrors and whatever, and they're just going to shoot the golden arrow at the ship, and it's just going to blow up.
But at a certain point, this is what I've been talking about for a while with the idea of two-parters and the limitations of 45-minute episodes. Is I think in 45 minutes you either choose what you're going to develop and what you're not, and you make something that works in the ways it wants to work, or you overstuff it. And I think a lot of modern episodes of Who have been overstuffed, and then everything feels underdeveloped. And I think you could have done more with the robots and made them more interesting, but I think you would have had, in 45 minutes, you absolutely would have had to take away from what the episode does well.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that, like, you needed, because I agree with you that it's a good episode and the good parts about it are good, but that doesn't mean that the bad parts about it aren't bad. That it's like, that robot shit is still lazy and poorly written, and either you need to find a way to make it work or don't do it. It
doesn't bother me. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's poorly written, but
you don't think that golden arrow thing is not bullshit?
I think it's, I enjoyed it there's probably, if I were just reading it as a script, yes, I would probably say that's a lazy piece of writing. I think when you put everything else on there and it feels like it's the climax to this episode that is bookended with archery and is about, we're set in the Robin Hood times, and it's about, we have all these moments where the Doctor and Robin Hood are not working together and where they're not listening to Clara, and then everyone kind of comes together in that moment. I see how it all works, and I like it, and I think there are details of how it works that you could fix and should fix.
It's the whole fucking, like, it doesn't make any sense.
This is such a small detail of the episode to be bitching about.
No, it's the climax it's the climactic moment of the entire plot. It's not like it is a singular moment, but it's not a small one. Like, it's hard for me to just excuse you, like, people coming up with just fucking a resolution to the conflict that makes no sense. You don't need to do that. You can set it up. And they tried to set it, like, they set up the golden arrow, like, that's fine, that was good. You then need to set up how the golden arrow really fixes the problem and not have it just be, it hits the ship. Because that makes no fucking sense.
I agreed with the thing that it made no fucking sense, but in that it just hits the ship. I think you could make small adjustments. I don't think the entire plot of the episode is contingent on that detail. I think it's
not the entire plot of the episode, but it is an important part of the plot. It makes the resolution feel really false because it just is nonsense. It makes no sense.
Okay. Again, I feel like this kind of thing happens on Doctor Who every other week, so
whatever. Too small, because it'll be bullshit, but it'll be bullshit that they justified through technobabble. Like, they didn't even really try to, like, bother with that in this episode. Like, because if it's something that, like, the sonic screwdriver hand waves it away, it'll still piss me off, but I can accept it to a certain degree because you've tried to justify it, where the golden arrow thing, like, you're working on something that you've basically set it up in a way that it doesn't actually work. Like, so, like, showing the golden circuit thing is enough to, like, make me realize subconsciously that this whole fucking thing doesn't, like, the way you're trying to resolve it doesn't make any sense, because you've told me what they're trying to do, and then you're showing me doing something that in no way is going to fix that problem.
I mean, but if they are building circuitry, the idea that if it pierces the hull, then the gold gets into the circuitry, I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
No, that doesn't. Like I said, it's like throwing a piece of an engine at a car and hoping that that's going to slot into place and fix the engine.
We're definitely putting too much weight on this. Let's talk about something else.
Okay.
Yeah. There's nowhere new to go with this conversation.
Yes.
All right. I thought Peter Capaldi was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really good.
And what I really liked about this one is that it gave him the dramatic moments that we know he's good at, but it also kind of finally unleashed the fierce comedy side of Peter Capaldi that he is famous for outside of Doctor Who, and has been there in bits and pieces so far. But this is the episode that really was built around that, and I really liked that. But I mean, he just, I really felt him as the Doctor here, and I'm not putting down his writing in the other episodes to say that. It just felt like this was such a full picture of him as the Doctor, where, you know, we start in the TARDIS with, I love that he's writing a big equation out while asking Clara where she wants to go, and then he just immediately dismisses her thing about Robin Hood.
Yeah.
There's just this very, you know, piercing aspect to him where he really doesn't care if he's going to offend you.
Yeah.
By putting down your idea about Robin Hood or something, which, to be fair, is very silly.
Yeah, because Robin Hood did not exist.
Yeah, Clara probably should have known better than that, but whatever. So there's that's fun, and then actually being confronted with Robin Hood and kind of his banter with them and all of this, and just his sort of cantankerous quality. I really liked that throughout, and I think that's been, you know, seeded enough in the other episodes that it felt very natural here. So, yeah.
Like, again, it has a very Hartnell-esque feel to it of him being angry, like, crotchety old Doctor. You know?
It's really good, and it just had a little bit of everything for me, because, and I like that we have that Hartnell quality, which we really haven't gotten with the Doctor in a while.
Yeah.
Because you do kind of need that physical age to really make it work. So that's nice. But yeah, he was very good here. He played well off a lot of different people in the episode. I thought their Robin Hood actor, who I liked, I thought he was a good Robin Hood. He played well off of him. He played well off of Clara. Clara played well off of everyone in this one, I thought. I thought they used Clara, or at least Jenna Coleman, really, really well in this one. Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast and off, and I don't remember which discussions have taken place where, but your whole theory about how, you know, Clara is just a new character this season.
Yeah.
And we're continuing. So,
starting the season, Clara's Clara. Forget everything else.
All right. So we have new Clara. How is new Clara working for you in this one?
Yeah, I like her. Like, I think she's turning into a good companion. Like, feels like she has a personality. She feels like she has, like, something to her. The fact that they're, like, trying to really make connections to her, like, showing that, you know, she really likes the Robin Hood story, which then sort of tells you a little bit about how she feels about the Doctor and all their stuff in the previous episodes about her being a teacher, and, like, integrating that into the episode makes her feel like an actual character as opposed to just a sort of, like, cardboard cutout of a companion that she felt like before.
Sure. And I think, you know, throughout this one, she got a lot of big moments. Although I do think one thing I liked is that it felt like the balance between her and the Doctor and maybe the side characters was more even on this one. Where, you know, the Rainbow Blue, Journey Blue, is that the character from the last one?
Journey Blue.
Yeah, none of the characters registered as characters in Into the Dalek.
Yeah.
It's just the Doctor, Clara, and then a bunch of red shirts.
Yeah.
Basically, this one felt like we had the Doctor, Clara, and they got good stuff, and then Robin Hood wasn't a red shirt. He got to be a character. That was good. You know, the Sheriff of Nottingham got to be a villain.
Yeah.
And more than just faceless. Cheesy villain, but, you know.
I liked him.
I'm not cheesy, does not mean bad.
Yeah, he was a very good Doctor Who villain.
It was a very good use of the world cliche.
Yeah, that was the best part of the whole episode for me. That line was fucking hilarious. They nailed that with fucking aplomb.
They did, and they knew what it was. They're not trying to convince you it's a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. So is Clara going to get, like, a new outfit in every episode? Like, fun, like, because in the first one she got to be Victorian Clara.
Right.
Last week she got to be, I guess, just kind of regular school teacher Clara. This week she's Robin Hood Clara. Yeah.
Next week she's Ghost Hunter Clara.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I feel like by the end of the season they'll release, like, a Clara, like, doll that little girls can, like, she'll have a different costume from each episode you can put on it. Yeah. I mean, actually, the costume and production design of this episode, I thought, throughout was really nice.
Yeah.
Like, I like that the Robin Hood outfit, it is still the silly green Robin Hood outfit, but looked like something someone might actually wear at that time.
Yeah, and, like, a lot of, like, the sets and outfits and stuff were very good at just feeling like a very cheesy Robin Hood movie, basically. Yeah.
Like, I like that the explanation of how the radiation leak is making this whole area more kind of storybook.
Yeah.
And that kind of explains why everything kind of glows and looks nice, and definitely, we were talking about this before the podcast. Doctor Who's clearly had a bit of a budget every episode this season because
it looks very good.
Yeah, this one didn't have a ton of effects necessarily, although I guess you've got all the stuff with the robots and the ship.
Yeah,
but it's just that's a lot of location shooting, and Doctor Who historically does not do location shooting.
Yeah,
they kind of shy away from that sometimes. So anyway, yeah, that was nice. Like I said, I liked the Robin Hood actor, and I liked that they got some of the nice Robin Hood conventions in there. Like it's always a thing in the Robin Hood ballads, like when he meets Little John, he and Little John fight. Yeah. They gain respect for each other by fighting, and then they become allies. And so that happens with him and the Doctor here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like on the fucking log over the river. Yeah,
which there's a lot of nice just setup and recurrence here too for me, where we have that fight, and then Robin uses the move the Doctor uses to kill the Sheriff of Nottingham at the end, in what is a extremely gruesome death.
He Terminator 2-ifies that motherfucker. Yeah,
really gruesome if you think about it.
Like, the Sheriff of Nottingham should have gone out like a fucking badass and, like, done the, like, thumbs up as he sank into the molten gold. I know now why you cry.
Now I just want to go watch Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Alright. Anyway. So yeah, what else is there to talk about here? Robin Hood's merry men did not get a lot to do individually.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because, again, 45 minutes.
Yeah, they were basically there for that big introduction scene. That was pretty funny. Yeah.
But I did like how they just worked in with it, like, it's Robin Hood as merry men, and they're all laughing, and the Doctor is kind of annoyed by the cliche of it.
Yeah.
But again, this is a thematic thing I liked, is that by the end it gets more to the root of that cliche, where I really loved the Doctor and Robin Hood's last conversations.
Yeah, that was very good.
Where, Robin has the line about how, if we pretend we're heroes enough, people will start believing in us. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of it. And there's that whole idea of, why are they always laughing and being merry and foolish? And it's this idea of, well, we're doing it because it's a very painful time. And this is kind of to cover it up and to put on a good face to the world. Yeah. And all these things. It felt by the end, nothing I felt like was there to kind of hit you over the head with any of these ideas, but it just kind of was built into the narrative and the dialogue in a nice way. And I liked how you can feel like the Doctor maybe walks away from this feeling a little more positive about his role in the world, while not ending his existential crisis by any means.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really liked all of that.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
The spoon thing was stupid.
You didn't like the spoon, okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of,
I'm fine with the spoon.
Again, the spoon's fine. It's just, it's more the lack of the sword is the...
Okay.
The Doctor should have had a sword fight. This was such an incredible opportunity to have Peter Capaldi fight someone with a sword. It was kind of wasted.
But I mean...
Yeah. Overall, a very funny, very solid episode that did have some good thematic ideas, even though the arrow thing was dumb.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, is there any notable music in this one? Because I didn't really get to notice
Not especially, they definitely had, some very Robin Hood-y music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think, Robin Hood especially, that was one of the things I worried about most here, because, good God, does Hollywood and just the entertainment industry have a tendency to treat Robin Hood in the most boring, dumb-headed way possible. I mean, you've got a very small number of actually decent Robin Hood stories told in Hollywood. And then you've got the weird ones like Disney, where he's a fox and all that shit. So,
yeah, but there's no better Robin Hood adaptation than the Daffy Duck cartoons.
Daffy Duck cartoons are very good Robin Hood, yes. So all I'm saying is that this has felt like one that used Robin Hood in an interesting way within the confines of Doctor Who, where it wasn't just the novelty of we're going and playing, with a guy in green who's got an arrow.
Yeah.
It's also that this comments upon the Doctor's condition at this point in the story. Mm-hmm. It tells a good story about the Doctor, but also about Robin Hood, uses some of the kind of Robin Hood cliches in interesting ways. And I thought they built the sci-fi stuff decently on top of that. You don't.
Yeah. That reminds me of another thing that it's not a huge deal in this episode, but it was a little bit grating. Was the Promised Land thing popping up? That was the ship was trying to get to the Promised Land.
Did they say that?
Yeah, no, that was because he goes to the data banks and he's looking and it says where did this ship come from? Where was it trying to go? And it says destination, the Promised Land, and he says the Promised Land again.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes,
my episode did glitch out at one point.
Okay,
and I'm spoiling a little bit about how I watched this.
Yeah,
but. It glitched out at one moment. I thought it just came back in at the same spot, but I think that was the exact moment you're describing, because I would have caught that line.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was about to say, another thing I liked about this episode is that it was just completely free of continuity and just focused on character continuity.
No.
Apparently not, okay.
Yeah, because that was another, and I think that also sort of soured me on the robot plot, because it also did something that I really don't like, it's sort of a trend that doesn't pop up all the time with new Who, but sometimes it does, where you have like your otherwise completely standalone episode, but then kind of like the reason why this episode happened just kind of like is offhanded to the series arc. And that's a little bit, it's not a huge deal, but it's a little bit frustrating for me. That again sort of fed into the whole, I'm not entirely sure like what the fuck these robots are or where they came from, which just makes the whole robot side of the plot feel very abstract and out of place to me.
Okay. That would have annoyed me if I had seen it.
Yeah.
So, interesting. All right.
Maybe if you had then seen that, then you would have been primed for calling bullshit on the Golden Arrow bullshit.
I would have been, I mean, it would have given me some anger. I liked the episode, so that's late enough in the episode and I was having such a good time, but, yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, I thought, the pre-credits sequence where we're just in the TARDIS, they made fantastic use of that TARDIS set.
Yeah, like that TARDIS set is fucking great.
It's great, and I thought they shot it in such an interesting way and blocked and staged that conversation to show it off. Where,
like I like that there are different like spots in the TARDIS for the Doctor to be. The fact that he has this blackboard is a really fucking cool idea, and the fact that he has this cool chair and like a little library and shit up there. It's nice that the Doctor, like, you can have stuff happening in the TARDIS that's not just at the console.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, this is such a classical Doctor Who episode in the model of they use the TARDIS to get where they're going, and then we don't see it again.
Exactly.
But within those two very customary minutes in the TARDIS, it was a great scene because you get really good Clara-Doctor interaction.
Yeah.
And you get a good sense of what is the Doctor like on just an average day in the TARDIS. I liked that. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
So we have that. That's really nice. But also just they shot the TARDIS interestingly, and it's a great set, as you say.
The lighting is so cool. Like, it's just this incredibly atmospheric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely liked the direction of this episode a lot better than the last two. And I know the last two were directed by Ben Wheatley, who's a big movie director, and everyone was like, yay, Ben Wheatley. I didn't like how those two were directed. I thought they were both way too cutty and overcut and sometimes overshot.
I liked Into the Dalek, but Deep Breath grated on me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I like Into the Dalek as an episode, and I thought it was better directed because it didn't feel like they were on a different set every 2 seconds. Or I should say maybe soundstage, because they are on a lot of different sets, but whatever. This one it was a little calmer, this one. That the action was choreographed more interestingly. Like there was more, like what I would say is I think like those first 2 episodes relied on kind of fast cuts to convey action and tension.
Yeah.
And this one there was like, if there was a sword fight, they just choreographed the sword fight, and there were cuts in the sword fight, but they were to get angles, not to create false tension.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't even know who directed this off the top of my head. I didn't notice, but I liked it. So yeah. I'm confident because Mark Gatiss isn't going anywhere for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So I know he can write a good episode now. Now this is like 1 out of 15 or however many fucking episodes he's written at this point.
1 out of like 7 or 8.
Yeah. I mean, he has to be behind Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat, the most prolific modern Who writer.
Yeah. He's written like at least 1 episode every season, right?
Yeah, I think he sat out series 4, but other than that, he did 1 for everything, I think. So yeah, did 2 for series 7.
Yeah.
God, in that last stretch too.
Yeah, that was a rough
couple episodes. Anyway, but yeah,
never forget the Crimson Horror. Never forget that happened.
And it is a little surprising to me that it took him this long to write a good Doctor Who episode, because when I see things he's written outside of Doctor Who, like his Sherlock episodes are fine.
Yeah,
they're not. Sometimes they're better than the Stephen Moffat episodes.
Yeah, like
Sherlock,
it's not like because you can. It was always a weird thing with Doctor Who before this, where it's like if it was a Mark Gatiss episode, like even if you didn't. Because it was like, when I first started watching New Who, I didn't notice the writers, and it was only until later that I sort of like became familiar with it. And then I would go back and see it's like, oh, Mark Gatiss wrote that episode. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And you wouldn't get that with Sherlock if you looked at like, oh, that episode was the Mark Gatiss episode of Sherlock. That makes a lot of sense in retrospect. That's how that episode was that way. Like, yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, this just felt like a good episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First one of the season, and the first one, and the last one for a while.
I would say Enter the Dalek was also a good episode.
I know. No, I wasn't saying this is the first good episode. But I was saying this is the first episode of the season and the last one for a while that does not have a writing credit for Stephen Moffat.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because he got a co-credit on last week's. He wrote next week's, and then he's got a co-credit on the next 2 after that. So.
I should say, I mean, you can't really judge quality based on these things, but the next time thing got me really excited for the next episode.
That was a really good preview.
Yeah, that was fucking cool. Because I always love when Doctor Who does horror, because I think they can do horror very well in their own way.
And I hope if this is a mostly standalone episode, it's Stephen Moffat writing it. I know he can do good Doctor Who horror.
Yeah,
back in the day, Blink. Yeah, come on,
Blink, and then from series 7, Hyde was one of my favorite episodes from that whole series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it should be
fun.
Very
good teaser.
Yes, and it was longer than usual. They gave it like a full 30 seconds or so to kind of breathe, and I liked seeing Peter Capaldi in like dark lighting scenarios.
Yeah, like staring into the camera.
His costume continues to be...
Yeah, his costume's real good.
Like, clearly, I think one of the things they did to choose it is just different lighting tests, because it really shines under just the various lighting conditions you put it under and on different sets. And it just... You could also see how he owns it in such a way that when he walks into, like, the forest, and he meets all the Robin Hood characters, and they don't really comment on his strange dress, because it fits him in a way. So, yeah, lots of good things. And the opening credits continue to just kind of blow my mind. I like them more every week.
Yeah, so like... Yeah, the overall, I'm... Especially off of, like, Into the Dalek being a huge, huge improvement off of Deep Breath and being a very good episode, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm very happy with this series so far. Like, I think Deep Breath was a weird misstep, but had a lot of good stuff in it that I think set it up well enough that I like the direction they're going. I really like Peter Capaldi. I like that they've sort of... It seems like so far they've gotten a decent handle on Clara as a character and know what they're doing with her now. That like, I can just... I made a big deal out of the Golden Arrow thing, but again, it's not... No way ruined the episode. It was just an annoying part of the episode to me. But, yeah, like, I can just watch an episode of Doctor Who and just sort of enjoy it.
Yeah, and I feel a lot more positive this week, too. I mean, I dislike Deep Breath more than you do. I really don't like it. So it's soured me a lot. But these two have been good enough, and maybe very good enough, that I'm not even thinking about it anymore. And I will say, this is the first episode of this season where I just sat down, watched it, enjoyed it, and I didn't feel like there was any gap. Even with Into the Dalek, which I'm on record really liking, but thinking maybe it was too overstuffed to feel fully developed. So that one, there was this little kind of gap between how I was processing it and how I was actually enjoying it. There was none of that this week. So, to me, it's all up. Yeah. The exponential jump is not there from Deep Breath into the Dalek. This is more of for me, like a slight curve. But, yeah. And both, and hey, neither of them have Madame Vostra, so maybe that says something.
But Stephen Moffat's writing the next one, so who knows?
She's not in it. They're not in it.
Maybe they're just saying that, Jonathan. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe Stephen Moffat will now, like, every single time he writes an episode, he'll put them in.
Yeah.
That would be terrifying.
Then maybe, like, when he leaves Doctor Who, he'll leave to make, like, his Madame Vostra fucking Strax spin-off.
That'd be great. Torchwood them so we never have to see them again.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm happy with that as long as they get out of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Fuck it. And I didn't even need Captain Jack to be Torchwooded because he was fine on Doctor Who. What if they're ever going to bring Captain Jack
back? I was
back?
just thinking the same thing.
Because Stephen
Moffat... It's been a pretty long time now.
Not since RTD.
Yeah.
And Stephen Moffat created Captain Jack, so that's a little weird to me. But maybe he feels like that character became Russell T Davies through Torchwood and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know that actor, John Barrowman, has said over and over again he'd do it in a heartbeat. I feel like you could... I would love to see Captain Jack and Peter Capaldi together. Yeah. That would be a really funny...
Be a fun combination.
Yeah. So if they ever want to bring that character back, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
And of course, for those of you who have not been watching Doctor Who for a long time, this is Captain Jack Harkness, not Captain Jack Sparrow. That would be a really weird Doctor Who crossover.
But, again, Doctor Who could cross over with anything. It would totally fucking work.
That would be a much better pirate episode than the pirate episode from Series 6.
Yeah, than with the one we actually got.
Which somehow became Amy's second to last line on the series, was referencing her pirate adventure.
Right,
because it was so special.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Special in a lot of ways.
It's very special. All right, I think we've talked about this enough. So, short podcast this week. Not a lot to talk about. But that's because next week, it's going to be a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. Next week we've got Destiny, and we've got Doctor Who, as always.
Yeah, and if this is a great episode of Doctor Who, and if Destiny is as great as it obviously is going to be, then I think next week will be a long podcast.
Probably.
Yes. And I'm glad we're doing this on the weekends now, so we'll have a full week to kind of play with Destiny.
Yeah.
And form some bigger impressions. Get past the beta content that we've already played 5 billion times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting. All right, so that's it.
All right.